Good afternoon, and welcome to the Rotary Club of Madison. It's great to see so many people here today. Thank you for coming out. My name is Paul Hoffman, and I'm the club president. And today's meeting is sponsored by Sean Carney and the Catholic Charities, and our thanks to Sean and the Catholic Charities for their support of today's luncheon. All right, we'll open up our meeting by reciting the four-way test together. What we think, say, or do, is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Great, thank you. And please remain standing while members of our music committee lead us in singing Lift Every Voice and Sing with Casey Elkers on the keyboard. And Bob Dindorf here is going to lead too, and also Dave. I got a group of them.
Yes.
Awesome. I didn't realize the whole group. Well, come on up, you guys. Look forward to hearing it.
Thank you. This being the first of Black History Month is an appropriate time for us to sing this particular song in place of our typical patriotic song as well as our featured song. This won't be the only time we sing this throughout the year, but it is a great opportunity here, and it also, with the bishop here, it has the hymn quality that you might enjoy. I'm going to ask some of you to hold that one, and maybe you can come join me over here, a little closer, guys.
Yeah, I'm not a singer. So.
All right.
Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our parents sighed. We have come over a way that the winter haven't watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us this far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we make thee. Bless our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you to the Rotary Choir for singing with us today. Thank you, Casey. And now we're going to have our guest. We're going to be introduced by Craig Weddle. Craig?
Thank you, President Paul. Appreciate that. So our guests, as I call your name, please stand and remain standing so that we may recognize you as a group. Maggie Slatke, guest of Bobby Slatke. Deborah Calder, guest of Bob Calder. Jim Hughes, guest of Loretta Himmelsbach. Creighton Quinto, guest of Ashley Quinto Powell. Barbara Sella, guest of Larry Smith. Sandy Lampman, guest of Sean Carney. Eric Fleming, guest of Julie Bennett. Gail Westfall, also a guest of Julie Bennett. And Amy Overby, also a guest of Julie Bennett. Sergei Pavlov, guest of Ken Yuska. Chris McAtee, guest of the Program Committee. Tim Ferguson, guest of Mike McKay. Daniel Sims, guest of Joe Lanus. Mark Alfred, guest of Sarah Eskridge. Emily Butler, guest of Bob Sorgi. And Beth Larson, guest of Valerie Rink. So please join us in welcoming.
Thank you, Craig, and welcome to all of our guests. It's so nice to have you here today with us. All right, this week is a great week as we bring together our annual Rotary Ethics Symposium back to an in-person event after having to cancel it for the past 2 years due to COVID. So my number to highlight today is 176. That number represents the number of Dane County High School juniors who have registered to attend the 21st year of our Rotary Ethics Symposium, which will begin to be held this Friday at the Monona Terrace. And we've got nearly 60 Rotary members volunteering that day. It is truly one of our signature projects, and I'm excited to be able to have that again this year. And our planning committee, co-chaired by Mike Gotzler and Bob Shoemaker, will provide us with some highlights after the event, and we'll truly look forward to hosting these 175 students this Friday. By the way, right after today's meeting, we have a few Rotary volunteers who are helping assemble the student name badges. If we could use another volunteer or two if you have time, and you can help out for about 30 minutes or so. Just let Jane or Pat know as we adjourn, and we can connect you with this volunteer group. All right, I'm pleased today to introduce a new member. Will Mark Guthier please stand, along with his sponsor, Susan Schmitz. Mark has been loaned the classifications of colleges and universities, administration and support, and Associate Vice Chancellor for UW-Madison Student Affairs. He is a former member of the club from 2002 to 2007, and we welcome him back. He was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and now lives on Brule Court in Madison with his wife, Amy. They have 5 adult children. Mark holds a bachelor's degree in accounting and a JD degree in both from the Indiana University. He is a member of the Association of College Unions, International ACUI, the National Association of Student Personnel Administrators, NSAPA, and the Clean Lakes Alliance Community Board. Mark enjoys gardening, woodworking, and entertaining. So please remain standing, Mark. And I'm pleased we also would like to have Joy Gander, who's returning to our club today. Joy, would you please stand? And your sponsor, Becky Steinhoff. Sorry, Becky. I just need to go one more sentence further, Becky, there. Joy is CEO of Gander Risk Management Consulting and was previously a member from 2015 to 2018. Welcome back, Joy. She is being sponsored by Becky Steinhoff. And so please join me in welcoming both Mark and Joy to our Rotary Club of Madison. Welcome. All right, thank you for that. And Melanie Ramey is spearheading our club meeting sponsorships. And Melanie has a quick announcement for us today.
I wanted to take this opportunity to sort of report on what's been happening with the club sponsorships. As you know, 2020 was a very bad year. But unlike many Rotary clubs, we were able to continue functioning, in large part thanks to Brian and Jason. Each week we were able to have our club meeting virtually. We were able to continue doing our scholarships, our community grants, and all of the many things that make this club so important. However, as you might have imagined, that because of the situation of the pandemic, our resources, financial in particular, sort of diminished to a trickle. And we had to get into our reserves in order to meet our expenses. So in 2021, as we began to meet again, the board made two decisions. And the one decision was that we would be able to offer sponsorships for our luncheon meetings. And people could sponsor and promote their business. They could sponsor just as themselves, or they could sponsor in support of a nonprofit organization. The other decision they made was that I should be the one to sell the sponsorships. So in any event, we proceeded on. And in the first year, we were able to sell all the sponsorships, thanks to you all. And this added about $25,000 to our reserve fund. And so the board decided to continue into the second year. And so we're in the second year now. And it's been going reasonably well. But you see, when we came back together, we also discovered that inflation had struck the Park Hotel, and it had increased the cost of this room, the cost of other rooms, the cost of our food, et cetera, et cetera. And so now then, the funds from the sponsorship simply go to defer our fees, and we would be having to pay about $75 more a year if we did not have the sponsorships. Now, these have been successful, except there's been one slight problem, and I want to discuss that with you. The slight problem is this. You see, this is the procedure I use. I send out an email and tell you about the program and asking you to sponsor and telling you how much and so forth. If I don't get a response in a week, I send out the email again. If I don't get a response in the second week, I send out the email again. Or I sometimes put a note on your button box and say, I don't take it personally that you've been ignoring me, and maybe it went in spam, but please do respond. If I don't get any response to that, I check the obituaries because I think maybe you died and I missed the notice. Well, if you're not in the obituaries, you see, then I have to be more creative. And there's one member who shall remain nameless, that I thought, I've never heard from this person yet. What to do? And then it occurred to me that he was a military man. He was a veteran and was in the reserve. So I thought, well, I'll write to the Army. So I wrote to the Army. I said, I'm looking for this man. I can't find him. Do you have him? Have you deployed him to some weird country nobody ever heard of? And they wrote back, said, we don't have him. He's still there. Are you his wife? But in any event, as you can imagine, after all of these efforts on my part, it leaves me a little crabby and a little crotchety if I don't hear back. But I was thinking about that today, and I thought, well, that's not a good feeling to have. Maybe I should look upon this as a religious experience. And I thought, well, the bishop's here today. He can help me. And I thought, well, you know, if the bishop were to tell you that when you pray intercessionary prayers, you should expect one of three responses. Yes, no, maybe, check back later. Well, this is the same thing when I send out my emails. I expect one of 3 responses. Yes, no, maybe, check back later. So I thought, well, this is going to continue the rest of this year and next year. And in fact, I will be here today for a little while. And it would be very nice if some of you who haven't sponsored would come up and say, Melanie, I'm dying to sponsor. And I will write down your name and send you an email. But in any event, we're going to continue with it this year and next year. And I don't know what will happen, but I suspect one of the unintended outcomes will be that I will be the most religious person here.
Thank you, Melanie, and thank you for your important service to the club. I appreciate that. And yes, I will be talking to you later, so we'll be doing that. All right. Maggie Porter-Kratz chairs our Community Projects Committee, and she's going to come up and tell us a little bit about some upcoming volunteer activities. Maggie?
Hi, everyone. I am excited to share 2 volunteer opportunities we have coming up this winter for 2 exciting organizations that are both women-led, and by women-led who are in this room today. So that's also exciting. The first one is to help clean and prep bikes for free Bikes for Kids on February 17th. That's a Friday afternoon. We're going to be doing cleaning and prepping of the bikes, and so you don't have to be mechanical. It'll put us to work, but if you are mechanical, they will move you into some more advanced projects too. So we need 4 to 7 volunteers, and yeah, we would love to see you out there. I think it's going to be great. They help provide access for bikes to communities that are traditionally underrepresented, and right now is their phase where they're cleaning and prepping, and then as the weather gets warm, they'll be distributing those both through communities and through nonprofits in the area. And Christy runs that organization. Yeah. And then on March 14th, David Bornstein on our committee has organized a volunteer opportunity to help St. Vincent de Paul with packing boxes of food. So this is a really great opportunity to tangibly help families in our community who have food insecurity. We're going to be there on March 14th, which is a Tuesday from 3 to 5 p.m. We're looking for 6 to 8 people to come out and help with that. Julie Bennett promised that she might have cookies there. So a little extra incentive for that. So we'd love to have to bring as many folks as we can out to really support these organizations and live out the Rotary mission of service. So thank you all. There's flyers on your table, and you can also email the office and let them know that you're able to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie, and appreciate you helping to organize these important service projects. Jason Barron. There you are, Jason. He serves on this year's planning committee for the Rotary Tri-Con event, and he's going to come up and tell us more about it. Jason?
Thank you, President Paul. So what is this Tri-Con thing up in La Crosse, you ask? In the past, our Rotary district and most districts around the world held their own individual district conferences. Now, our Rotary district is in the 2nd year of a long-term commitment to collaborate with 2 other districts in the state of Wisconsin in hosting a joint conference, which is called Tri-Con. Instead of reinventing the wheel every year, we've created standing committees with staggered appointments to organize this annual conference with a multi-year outlook. By leveraging the 3 districts' resources, we can attract top keynote speakers, book better venues, expand the number of workshops, and increase the opportunities for Rotarians to connect around the state. Tri-Con is not just for our club leaders or our club committee chairs. It's an opportunity for all Rotarians to learn from inspiring speakers about the work of Rotary around Wisconsin and around the world, and then to bring that back, that knowledge back to Madison. I want to extend a special invitation to new members. As one new member said, it's a one-stop shop to learn all about Rotary. This year's conference features keynote speakers Betsy Roselle on drug and addiction recovery, Claire Richards on young leaders, diversity, equity, and inclusion from CUNA Mutual Group's Angela Russell. And we've brought in from Poland, the district governor from Poland, to speak about Rotary's efforts to aid the Ukrainians. We have over 30 unique workshops, and a sampling of them is coming up on the slide here. And you can find more details about the conference and the workshops on the website. There's some magnets on your tables, but also the easiest way is if you just Google Rotary TriCon, it'll come up. I want to thank Scott Strong and Teresa Holmes, who are helping facilitate two of our sessions that focus on DEI. The conference starts on Thursday evening with a dinner celebrating the Rotary International Foundation and continues Friday through Saturday with speakers, workshops, and even a service project where we'll be packing meals to send to aid the Ukrainians. Sunday, we'll conclude with a Pints for Polio event that features several of La Crosse's historic bars, which are all walkable from the conference site and your potential hotels. You can attend as much or as little as your schedule allows, so sign up now. A discounted registration is available till the end of February. Also, as Paul mentioned, I'm the vice chair of the conference and will become the conference chair. And so if you're interested in volunteering and help organize future conferences, please let me know. So I'd like to see you in La Crosse. Thank you very much.
Jason, thanks for that, and thanks for all your service to Rotary. I really appreciate all that you do for us. All right, we've got some birthdays to celebrate with a bit of humor or wisdom that complements Rotary's mission. We also encourage members to make a gift to our Madison Rotary Foundation that represents their age, rounded up to 100 for our Synergy Scholarship Fund. All right, January 29th, Jeff Bartell. January 29th, Jason Fields. January 30th, Sarah Anstelt. January 30th, Julie Bennett, sorry, there we go. January 30th, Chuck Elliott, who shares, on the eve of an election, a candidate asked a reporter, "Did you hear my last speech?" And the reporter replied, "I certainly hope so." Thank you, Chuck. January 31st, Dave Dukow. January 31st, Bing Rickers, who shares, "The only wealth is health. The rest are just poker chips." Thanks, Bing. February 1st, Mike Hosley. February 2nd, Dan Thompson. February 4th, Cheryl Whitkey, who shares this quote from Winston Churchill: "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Please consider giving the gift of your time and experience by becoming a Rotary Scholar Mentor this year." Thank you, Cheryl. And thanks to all of our celebrants for their contributions to the Madison Rotary Foundation. And please join me in wishing them a happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you. As Jason Barron reminded me that this mic does pick up on singing, so I do try to be very careful about that. I'm no Wes Sparkman, you know. Anybody been here long enough to remember the singing president, Wes Sparkman? I know you're around here, Wes, someplace. There you go, Wes. All right, well, we've got a couple of sympathies to let you know about today. Mike Engelberger's father, Robert Engelberger, passed away on January 27th in Marshall. We extend our condolences to Mike and to his family. And Rich Leffler's wife, Joan, passed away on January 28th. We extend our sympathies to Rich and to their family. And congratulations goes out to Kathy Bloomreich, who married Keith Ketterhenry on December 30th, 2022. Congratulations, Kathy. Oh, nice picture. I didn't see that before. So that's awesome, Kathy. We've got a couple of members that are in the news. Rhonda Adams was pictured and quoted in 2 articles in the Northside News. Northside Blood Drive on February 8th, and Curbside Breakfast with Bunny is hopping back this year. There we go, Rhonda. And Marissa Young has been listed among In Business Magazine's 2023 class of 40 under 40. Congratulations to Marissa. All right, our speaker today is Bishop Donald Hying, who received his bachelor's degree from the Marquette University and his master's degree from St. Francis Seminary. Pope Francis appointed him the 5th Bishop of Madison, Wisconsin, and Bishop Hying's installation in the Diocese of Madison took place on June 25th, 2019. Today, Bishop Hying is going to talk with us about ethical decision-making and the impact on business, professional, and community leaders. This is a timely program with our Rotary Ethics Symposium for high school juniors coming up this Friday. We look forward to your presentation, Bishop, and we have made a contribution to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund as a way to say thanks for speaking with us today. I also want to mention that we'll have time for Q&A with our speaker as time allows, but please wait for the microphone if you've got a question. And let's welcome Bishop Hying to our podium today. Bishop.
Thank you so much, Paul. I'm very grateful and honored to be with you today and to speak with you. Paul shared with me there's over 400 requests for speakers every year, and that has to be trimmed down to about 40. So I'm honored to make the cut. You know, that's amazing. I also think it's the first time the Catholic Bishop of Madison has had the privilege of speaking with this group. So it makes me doubly honored and blessed to be with you today. Melanie, I want to hire you to do fundraising for the diocese. So I know you want to talk with all of us afterwards. I want to talk with you afterwards, all right? I'm deeply aware of the time limitations. When I was a transitional deacon on my way to priesthood, so I'm at my new parish assignment. It was St. Anthony's in Menominee Falls. I was a I was a priest of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee. So I'm scared to death, and I'm preaching, and all of a sudden, there came a point in my homily when this man in the back row held up 10 fingers and just kept looking at me with his fingers up. So that threw me off a little bit, and after Mass was over, I'm shaking hands. He comes through, and he says, "Deacon, no one was ever saved in the 11th minute of a homily." So when I hit 10 minutes, he put up his 10 fingers. We ended up becoming great friends, so that's beautiful. So I just want to reflect with you a little bit on the beauty of ethics and the beauty of living a moral life. And what does it mean to be an excellent human being? And what does it mean to live the miracle of our existence with purpose and passion? So I think we all know that ethics is knowing the right thing to do, the morally good thing to do, and then doing it. There's times when those choices are abundantly clear. There's times when those choices are very murky. And so all of us look for like a moral compass, you know, some North Star that is a fixed point of moral direction for us. So obviously I'm grounded in my Catholic faith. So for me, the moral compass is Jesus Christ. I know myself as someone created in the image and likeness of God, purchased with the precious blood of Christ and anointed in the Holy Spirit. That's how I know me. So I say to fellow Catholics, when somebody asks, "Who are you?" at a party, just say, "I'm made in the image of God the Father. I've been purchased with the precious blood of Christ. I'm anointed in the Holy Spirit," and watch them run for cover, right? But I also know that not all of us believe the same way. We belong to different churches. We belong to different religions. We have different understandings of the human person and the fundamental meaning of life. But I would like to think that all of us can agree that we are called to be excellent human beings. That our life here is magical and miraculous and mystical that we're not just some highly evolved animal, that we're not just the fruit of a collision of random circumstances, that there's some sort of purpose that we have, and that there's more to this life than simply meets the eye, more than we can touch, taste, feel, or control. That we are called to go beyond ourselves in love. And I know a grounding truth of Rotary is service. So you are here today because in one way or another you have come to that profound conviction of truth. That we're not here just for ourselves, but that we're here to make a contribution and to leave the world a better place and to transform our brothers and sisters by loving them and sacrificing for them, to go beyond ourselves. The big fancy word for that is transcendence. To go beyond ourselves and to realize there's more to us than just what's immediately before us. So there's moments of beauty that are transcendent. To stand in front of an amazing masterpiece painting in the Chicago Art Institute is a transcendent moment. Or to go backpacking out west and to stand under a cloudless, starry sky that is just filled with millions of stars, and to realize both our smallness but also the beauty of the cosmos. To come to some new realization of knowledge, something that we never learned before, and someone shares with us, is a moment of transcendence. Or simply the wonder of life. Have you ever gotten up in the morning and just wondered, like, how am I here? Why am I here? There's many mornings I pinch myself and I just can't get over the wonder of being alive. What a gift and what a mystery. But ultimately, love is the transcendent experience, that we are made to love and to be loved. And isn't it in those moments of loving and being loved that we most profoundly go beyond ourselves and realize this is it. This is why I'm here. To love and to be loved, to transcend myself and to dare to touch another human being in goodness and service and in forgiveness. So love is willing the good of the other for the sake of the other, not because of what I may get out of it, not because of the feeling that it gives me, but willing the good of the other because that other person is not a means to an end. That other person is the end himself or herself. So to make a gift of ourselves. The Greeks had at least 3 words for love. English is so limited at times. I can say, I love pizza and I love my mother, right? Same word, very different meaning. But the Greeks had at least 3 words for love. One was eros. So we think of the romantic sexual love in marriage. One is philios, which is the love of friendship. But the third one is agape, which is this heroic, self-emptying, sacrificial love that completely pours itself out for the sake of the other. And I would dare say that every single one of us in this room has had moments of agape love, whether it was pouring ourselves out for a sick child, or the moment when our spouse proposed marriage to us and we said yes, or a moment when at work we really sacrificed and worked hard to bring about a new project or a new reality within our business. That all of us do volunteer work in order to build a world of justice, love, and peace, that we're called to sacrifice for each other. So when I studied the Rotary 4-way test, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? So we look at truth, we look at justice, we look at goodwill, and we look at the social benefit to everyone. Those are the ideals that each of you embraced when you became a Rotarian, and those are the right ideals, because it's in the pursuit of truth and justice and benefit and compassion that we can build a society of justice, love, and peace, that we can transcend ourselves and realize that the meaning of our life is not selfishness or cynicism, that the meaning of our life is not materialism, that at the end of our life, the judgment of an existence's success will be how much did we love, how much did we serve, how much did we give away, how much did we allow others to love us, and how much did we dare to go beyond ourselves in loving them. All of you are here because in one way or another you have intuited, embraced, digested, and lived those ideals. And that's the glue that holds a society together. And without it, we're simply locked into prisons of self-interest. And we want to go beyond that because we know that that's not the ultimate purpose and goal of our life. So we want the common good. We want to seek to build a world where every human being can flourish and thrive and live. And that's certainly the Catholic vision of things. So when I look at Catholic social teaching, I just want to reflect on that a little bit. Many Catholics themselves don't know what Catholic social teaching is. But I always say you can be an atheist and still embrace the principles of Catholic social teaching, and it's a great way to build a society. So I just want to share some of those fundamental principles with you. The first is the absolute dignity of the human person, that a person is never a means to an end, that all of our political structures and economic structures are not the goal, but simply the means to serve the dignity of the human person, especially those most marginalized, the poorest in our midst, those most profoundly in need. And I know it's the needy and the suffering and the poor that grab at our hearts and is the goal of all of your good work as Rotarians. But the absolute dignity of the human person, to look at every person we meet and realize this person has an imperishable spirit. This person is like me. This person has the same hopes, the same fears, the same loves, the same anxieties, and in the end, we are bound as brothers and sisters. Second principle is solidarity, that we're all in this together, that I can't succeed at the expense of someone else, that either we're going to all succeed together or we're all going to go down together. So it really takes away unhealthy competition and replaces it with the sense of how can I be of service to you? And how can I love you? And how can I give myself so that you can flourish? Care for the poor and marginalized. In the Hebrew scriptures, it's clear that the measure of one's relationship with God is the litmus test of how one serves and loves the poor, the Anawim, the ones on the margin of society. So we can look in our midst today, even in our own cities and communities, and ask ourselves, where are the hidden poor? Where are the suffering? And to seek them out with compassion. Another is care for the environment, and that's certainly front and center on many of our minds and hearts these days. But another one is the dignity of work. And really, all of you are business leaders. All of you are successful in the world of civic life, of business life, of economic life. And I think all of you are here because you know that the bottom line of what you're about is not simply making more money, but it's about giving employment to your people. It's about helping them to flourish. It's about making your contribution to the common good so that the service you offer, the product you make, the contribution that you embrace within our society contributes to the whole. So think of all the intelligence, the energy, the resources, the gifts that are represented in this room by you. And think of the power of that when we bring it together into this ideal of service. So from the Catholic Church's perspective, work is not a curse, it's a blessing, because it allows us to cooperate with the Creator who continues to work in the unfolding of the human race and the beauty of creation. So work is not something to try to get out of. Work is something to see as the means by which we not only find our own dignity and purpose, but offer to others the opportunity to make their contribution. The gift of marriage and family as the foundation of our society is another principle of Catholic social teaching. And finally, rights and responsibilities. That every human being has rights, but that there's a consequent responsibility with that right. So that we have the right to education and to food and to health care and to housing. But we also have the responsibility to offer those gifts to others. So the beauty of all those principles comes together to help us to seek a better world, a world where every child is welcomed and loved, a world where every human being can reach their potential and make their contribution, where there's no one outside the circle of solidarity and of compassion. I was blessed to do 4 years of mission work in the Dominican Republic because the Archdiocese of Milwaukee had a parish mission there. And when I went, I knew 2 words in Spanish, cerveza and baño, beer and bathroom. It's like, that's all I knew. So I spent 4 months living with this family in an apartment in Santo Domingo studying Spanish. And then I went out to our parish, and our parish was 27 villages spread out over 50 square miles. And for the first year, I felt like I couldn't even see the people that I was seeking to serve. I was so blinded by their material poverty. So I felt like I was living on another planet. After about a year, I was so blinded by their spiritual beauty, I no longer saw them as poor. So to live with the poor is to truly be transformed, because the poor materially have very little power, very little money, very little economic leverage, and yet by that fact, they're compelled to live in the moment and to sacrifice and to be generous with each other. So one of the most foundational moments in my life came, there was a family in one of our villages that was even poorer than most, and they lived off by themselves up in the hills. They had a house that they had built themselves out of cement, mud, and sticks. And they had one of everything. They had one daughter, they had one table, they had one chair, they ate once a day, and they had one chicken. And they had this chicken tied up, and they fed it scraps. And we joked that when that chicken was good and ready, we'd have this huge feast. So one day they got word to me that their daughter was ill, so I went bouncing up there in my pickup truck. I drove a Toyota pickup truck that had 575,000 kilometers on it. You could shift it without stepping in the clutch. You could take the keys out. It would keep running. So we went up there and celebrated the Catholic sacrament of the anointing of the sick, prayed with her. And afterwards, the parents and I sat outside. They made me sit on their one chair. I was the guest. They sat on the ground. We watched this beautiful sunset and this just array of stars come out, and we talked for a long time into the night. When I got up to go, the father picked up the chicken and handed it to me and said, "Thank you for coming to anoint our daughter." I thought of the widow's mite in the gospel. It's the one thing they had, and they wanted to give it to me as a sign of their gratitude. Like they had nothing, and this one chicken that they had, they wanted to share with me. So for 35 minutes, we proceeded to argue in Spanish about me not wanting to take the chicken, him insisting that I take the chicken. So finally, I receive it because I realize he'll be insulted if I don't take it. So it's 11 o'clock at night. I'm bumping down this potholed road in the dark with this flapping, clucking chicken flying around the cabin of my truck, laughing my head off. But that night, I learned a profound lesson. Because I always wondered why the Dominican people carried themselves with such dignity and confidence. Because they lived this hard scrabble existence where they were just scratching life out of this unforgiving soil. And they were savvy enough to know that not everybody in the world lived the way they did in economic hardship. And yet they carried themselves with this dignity and confidence that belied their circumstances. And that night I learned their secret. The secret was gratitude. They're grateful for everything. And when we approach life with gratitude, it saves us from self-pity, jealousy, selfishness, anger, entitlement. Because when we realize that everything that we have has been given to us and that it's simply meant to be passed on and shared. So together we can build a world of love and compassion, of justice and mercy. We live in a culture today that is so divided and angry. To even speak those words may seem idealistic or utopian. Yet I refuse to say that. I refuse to think that it's idealistic or that it's unreachable or somehow just a dream. Because if we truly strive to be an excellent human being, and if we think of the moments of transcendence in our life and simply fill our lives with those moments over and over again, where we encounter other human beings and dare to love them and serve them and enter into their experience and allow them to enter into our hearts, then something imperishable is born and woven together. And we call that tapestry the beauty of a community built on these principles of justice, love, peace, and compassion. It's a great gift for me to serve as bishop in Madison. It's the state capital, obviously the home of the university, a significant city, many people of great influence and power and intellectual heft. And God has given us tremendous gifts. And each one of us, no matter our beliefs, are here today because we're convicted that those to whom much has been given, much is asked. So I just want to thank you for all the different ways that you contribute to the flourishing of the human community here in Madison. And just ask the Lord to bless you and to fill you with peace and joy. Now, whatever we do, whatever we give away, in the end, remains forever. And I just want to close with a beautiful story about Mother Teresa. You know, she was a geography teacher in an upper-class high school in Calcutta for decades. And she would look out the window of her convent and see the poor people in the slums of the city, and slowly felt called by God to leave the safety and comfort of her convent and to go and serve them. And so she finally got permission and she left. Her fellow sisters thought that she was fragile, that she would come back within a week, that she would never make it. There's many words that describe Mother Teresa. Fragile is not one of them. She never came back. But the very first person she found in the streets of Calcutta who had been abandoned, was dying, was this man who was filthy, dressed only in rags, had open sores. There were worms coming out of the sores. Imagine the dirt, imagine the smell. And she picked him up and carried him to a hospital. And because he was an untouchable, the hospital didn't want to help him. So she said, very well, I'll just wait here with him till God changes your heart and you help him. So she's sitting in this waiting room in this hospital in Calcutta holding this man who's dying. And he looked at her with absolute stunning curiosity. And he said to her, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Like, why are you paying attention to me? Why are you going through the trouble? Here's a man who was struggling with receiving the love of someone who perhaps had never been loved in his life. And she said, because I love you. Because I see Christ in you. From our Christian perspective, that's the mystery of human dignity. But again, regardless of where we are with faith, can we not look at each other and see that spark of divinity within each one? That's the vision, that's the dream, and that's the goal that all of us embrace. And I'm just grateful for all of you as Rotarians, because this organization, this group, all of you collectively and individually make a huge impact on this city and this community. And I, as a leader of the religious community, just pledge my support and goodwill that we simply want to build up that city, that beautiful place where every human person finds welcome, love, and goodness. So It's 101 and I'm finished. So thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if there's time for questions, Paul, or I don't know if. Okay, great.
There you go, Karen. Thank you. A great message on a day when I really needed it. How would you apply these ethical principles and our four-way test to the climate crisis?
So a great question. I think I certainly don't claim to be an expert on anything regarding climate, but regardless of where we stand on global warming and all of those issues, I think all of us would readily agree that we need to cut consumption, that we need to be more equitable in terms of sharing the world's resources with others and caring for the earth. So when we look at all of that, how do we, as residents of the first world, really voluntarily and lovingly restrict our consumption, but also seek to enact laws and measures to make that happen, locally and globally. I know that's nothing specific, but it would be a high priority for the church. Yeah, very much so. My parents grew up in the Depression. I think they were green way before green was cool. It's like clothes became rags. I mean, you used everything. Nothing was thrown away. One of my brother's friends toilet papered our yard one night, and my father grew up in the Depression, so he pulled all of it down and used it, and it was like, he said, tell your friends next time bring Charmin, but nothing was ever wasted. And I think we live in such a culture of waste and conspicuous consumption. So I thought I'd seen poverty in the Dominican Republic. I went to Haiti, and Haiti made the Dominican Republic look like the United States. So when I look at decisions in my life, I think of the Haitians I met and just say, what can I do to help them? But also, what can we do to help our world, right? Thank you for the question.
A couple of stories of experiences with people who are poor being inspiring. Working with the poor can also be infuriating, because when you work closely with the poor, there's sometimes alcoholism and mental illness and lack of social skills and all sorts of things. I've been reading the diaries of Dorothy Day, who as a Catholic, spent her life living closely to the poor. And in her diaries, she's quite open about finding many of the poor people she dealt with on a daily basis infuriating. What do you do about that?
Yeah, it's easy to idealize any group of people, whether it's the poor or somebody. And maybe that idealization, in a sense, is a dehumanization. So to realize that no one is simply a category, that all of us are this mysterious mixture of grace and sin, but trying to love people in the specificity of their lives. But something that's always helped me as a priest is when you realize the background of somebody, when you really sit long enough and listen to their story, everything they do, even if it's baffling, even if it's infuriating, is logical and makes sense given what they've experienced. So when we truly understand what someone has been through, it helps us to understand why they're doing or saying what they're doing and saying. That doesn't always help in the moment, right? If somebody's insulting us or attacking us or is ungrateful, but it helps me understand in the long term, there's a reason this person is the way he or she is. And often it's circumstances beyond their control, right? So think of people that are incarcerated or people in the food line or people that are homeless. To really listen to their story, like that could be me. And when I realize for different circumstances that could be me, it helps me to at least somewhat limit my judgment of that person. I don't know if that helps, but no, it's easy to idealize it, and it's not ideal at all, right, in some ways, in the reality.
Thank you. I have a question. How do you take your message of love and caring and community, and you talked about what you were feeling in this club, et cetera. How do we take that to the rest of our country
so that we can have conversations about eliminating hate in our community, in our communities right now. An example is what just happened in Memphis.
Right.
And with the many school shootings, et cetera. So how do we do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think ultimately it has to be all of us choosing to love, to listen, to engage, to be that difference that we want to make. But no, it's very different. I just came back from Israel. I was on pilgrimage with 116 people last week, and there was violence again in Jerusalem last week, shootings. And you just look at this situation that it's been this way for thousands of years, and it's easy to give up hope and say, you know, how can we ever change this? So I think to dare to hope, and even if it means transforming one person or loving one person or listening to one person, that matters and that's hopeful. It's hard to think systematically because there's so many forces against, you know, listening, against dialogue, against building a relationship. But I think it comes down to one person at a time in many ways. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Bishop, for speaking with us today. Your message of service hits all of us at home here as Rotarians, so thank you very much for that. And I want to say thanks for everybody who attended today. Great attendance again, so we appreciate you coming out. And I hope you join us next week when we're going to hear from Mark Vanderoff, who is Chief Executive Officer of Fincantieri, Marinette Marine in Marinette, Wisconsin. And this company is legendary in designing and building military vessels, highly specialized support vessels, ferries, cruise ships, mega yachts. And Mark's going to tell us more about shipbuilding and the history of shipbuilding in Wisconsin and its partnerships and the economic benefit to our state. So I hope you join us for this presentation. And with that, we are adjourned.